Hi guys, how you doing? So today we're going to take a look at a couple of power supplies from Corsair. The first is the TX850M and the other is the RM850X. Both 850 watt power supplies, gold rated, and both good choices. But which one's better? So today we're going to compare them in 5 different categories and we're going to decide which one's the best one and which one's the best for you. So when it comes to the aesthetics of the units, they're very similar and they're quite different as well. So they're similar in terms of the dimensions, the overall look, but they're different because the design has been put more into the RM versus the TX. The TX is quite boxy, quite basic, whereas the RM is kind of a bit more refined and just looks a bit nicer. Now when you're buying a unit like these, you kind of want to know you're making a good choice, and when the manufacturer puts a little bit more emphasis into the design phase, you think, okay, it's going to be a better product. And for me, that means quite a bit, to be honest. So for the aesthetics of the unit, I think the RM wins quite easily, to be honest. So now we're going to look at modularity in cables. So the difference between the units is that the TX is semi-modular, so that means that the 24-pin and the 8-pin CPU cable are integrated to the unit, whereas the RM is fully modular, so all the cables need to be inserted by the user. The TX has less options as well, whereas the RM has a lot more ports and a lot more cables. When we look at the cables, I definitely prefer the RM. They're a nicer looking cable. They're mostly sleeved and round, whereas the TX are flat. And to be honest, when you're kind of routing cables, it can be a bit of a problem with the TX cables, especially when you go 90 degrees. Also, when you're trying to feed the cables through, with the RM, you can do it from the front of the case with the CPU and the 24-pin, whereas with the TX, you've got to route it from the back. And that's not always kind of the best way to do things. So because of the full modularity, the extra cables, and just the nicer looking cables, the RM wins this category as well. So if I'm a new user, I think that the TX is going to be a lot easier to use. Firstly, it's got the 2 integrated cables, and then when it comes to actually kind of putting in the cables, there's less options, so there's less confusion. One of the other things about the units is that the fans run full time on the TX, whereas on the RM it has a 0 RPM mode, so basically under low and medium workloads it doesn't spin. And if you're a new user, it could be that you kind of get confused by this and you think, oh, there's maybe a problem. Actually installing these 2 units as well is very similar, but as I kind of alluded to in the previous section, the TX is a little bit harder because obviously you can only route from the rear when it comes to the 24-pin and the CPU cable. But overall, the TX is the far easier power supply to use, so it gets my vote. So when you buy a product, you want to know, firstly, that it's going to be fit for purpose, and secondly, if there's a problem, the manufacturer or the supplier are going to kind of do the right thing and help you out. Now, with both these units, you get a great warranty. You get 7 years with the TX and 10 years with the RM. Now, I've only ever had one issue with a Corsair power supply, and that was an SF600 SFX power supply. There was a recall on it, and they did the right thing. They stepped in and they kind of did a replacement, which is fantastic. So whichever one you go for, to be honest, you're going to get a fantastic warranty, 7 years or 10 years. Based solely on numbers, the RM wins because a 10-year warranty is just absolutely amazing. So if you take a look at the Corsair website, you'll see that both of these units are priced at £130. Now the reality is slightly different. I paid £108 for the TX and £125 for the RM. Now obviously price is dictated by the manufacturer, by the supply and demand, by the availability and all of that. So whichever one you get, if you get those price points, they're really good value. But based solely on the price, the TX offers the better value because it's cheaper. So yeah, the TX wins this one. Guys, just before I tell you which one is my winner, I'd like to know what your favourite is. Which one did you use, and which one would you choose based on this review? Now, I like both of them. I've used them in multiple sizes, from 550 all the way up to 850. They're really nice, they're really solid. You're not going to go wrong with either one. At the end of the day, it'll come down to price and preference. So if one's £50 in your region, less than the other, go for that. But today, comparing them side by side, my winner is the RM850X. It's fully modular, it's better looking, better cables, a better warranty, and really just for £17 in this case difference, it's well worth the investment. Guys, as always, if you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.